Alright, I'm going to be doing my best job to explain animations and combo cycling here. If some of this doesn't make sense, then I'll just try to answer it in text later. Also, since this is version 1.92, it's going to be a lot more different than what you're looking at probably. But anyway, here's something from the ending of BA2 with a bunch of animations on it, so this will be a good example to show how it works. Basically, on the screen right now, this is part of a cutscene, but cutscenes are just a series of screens that you get timed warped through, so it doesn't really matter. All the companions here are on a separate layer, which is right here, so we can just kind of analyze them on this. We'll just kind of look at, I guess, like, we'll do this one, because why not? So this is combo 3172. Let's jump all the way to that. Go all the way down on the list, wherever the hell they are. Here we go. 3172 is right here. Get the correct C set just so you can see it. So basically this is just a simple 2-frame animation. This one is made up of 2 different tiles. Some of them are 4, some of them are only 1, but this one's 2. If you look at my tile sheet, you'll basically see where they all are. Remember, when you do animations, you have to make sure that the different frames are one right after the other, so that's why some of them like this are kind of broken up looking. It's because if I had the full tile, like if I had the full 4 tiles and then the full 4 tiles, it wouldn't animate right. So for this one right here, I've just got the 2 different poses. I had to draw them individually. When you set up the combo for this, all you do is you pick the first tile that you want to use, and then where it says A frames, animation frames, you set how many it's supposed to be, which in this case is only 2. And what it'll do is it'll look at the very next one in the sequence. If you set it to more than 2, then obviously it'll animate through more of them. So right now it's going to start with this, and then it's going to jump into these 2. So it's going to look really weird, but you can see that that's what it's doing here. So once it goes through however many you tell it to, it cycles back to the first one. A speed is, as it says, basically just how fast it goes. A speed of 0 is the fastest it can possibly be. A speed of 60 is, it cycles between, I think the actual display speed in the recording right now is off compared to how it would be in the game, but 60 is supposed to be, it changes frames once per second. So anything in between that is just, obviously the lower, the faster. It goes off of number of ticks. A tick is 1/60th of a second. So this one, it waits 14 ticks and then it changes. That's pretty much all there is to that. For more complex animations, like this garbage, it's obviously a lot more that you have to worry about, but the overall idea is the same. Again, excuse the extremely fast animation speed. It's not supposed to be like that in the normal game, but like this animation right here took quite a bit of setting up to do. You can just kind of see in here how it's lined up. The best way that I've found to do this is just kind of draw each frame individually in Paint, and then you can set up the whole thing like in a way that looks visually pleasing when you're looking at it to make sure that like it looks correct. But then when you import it into Zelda Classic, you need to break it up into the particular order that it has to be in, or otherwise it's not going to work right. So that's why it looks like a complete mess here. That's just kind of what it has to be. But other than that, you can tell there's not really anything else going on here. It's just you pick the first tile, you tell it how many frames, you tell it how fast, and you let it go. And that's all that is. Same thing with the star field in the background. All that is just, like, this particular scene right here is multiple layers of animation just kind of stuck on top of each other. Let's see, layer 1. Okay, come on. Here we go. Layer 3 is a star field. Layer 4 is a different star field to give it extra depth. This is actually the same exact animation, just played over itself, like at different speeds. Yeah, I have them right here. You just have one going slow, one going fast. It makes it look cool like that. And then above that we have this going, and above that we have this going. And you just combine them all together and it looks really cool. Now as for combo cycling, that's something that you need to hold on, let me turn the layers back on. To understand combo cycling, you need to understand animation, so hopefully that made sense. Like I said, not too complicated, you just need to know how to set it up. This is a room that in the game, there's like a bridge that kind of goes through a certain path that you have to follow to the end. And if you don't keep up with it, or if you go too fast, then you fall in a pit. The way that this screen works, if I can grab this tile and check, 2785. Where is that? Here it is. Yeah, this will be fine. So, this is 6 different combos in a row, and you'll notice 3 of them are pits, 3 of them are like floor tiles, and as far as you can tell from looking at them, there's no obvious difference between them. There's a reason for this. Basically, when you do a combo cycle, it has to be an animation. It can't be a static image. And when it finishes playing the animation, it jumps to the next combo on the list. So, when you go into this room, you start on this little tile here, and then normally you would go left, and then up, and then up, and then this way. So these 3 tiles here, even though they look the same, are actually different. We have 2782, 2783, 2784, which I think I hit the wrong button there, but whatever. Yeah, 84, and then this one here, 85. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's because the pathway basically needs to animate. So on this particular tile, what's happening is it's starting on black. It's like starting on a pit, and then as soon as its animation plays out, which in this case is just 2 tiles of blackness, as soon as it finishes, it goes to the next one in the sequence, which is where it says next, which in this case is 2787, which is right here. And then when this one goes through its animation, which is 2 tiles, it jumps to 2786, which is this one. So basically they're playing in reverse order. So essentially what happens is you have a tile, turns into a tile, turns into a tile, turns into a pit, into a pit, into a pit, back into a tile. And it has to be that way because basically like there's like a certain speed to how fast they move. I can't have them all start and stop at the same time. They all have to have like a I assume you know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know how to word it. They basically just need to kind of stagger a bit. And so that's pretty much all that those are, is it's just I'm telling it to it lasts for 2 frames, or it goes through 2 frames, it lasts for this speed. As soon as that's done, goes to the next one, and it's an infinite loop. And the reason you have to do it this way instead of just doing an animation or something like that is because the actual properties of the tile are changing. It's going from undefined to a pit. So the only time you ever really need to use combo cycling is if it's changing properties like that. Another example of this would be during the boss fight. During certain phases of the boss, you'll have moments like this where he kind of laughs at you for a minute and then changes to having like the electric barrier. If I can find where those are on my list here, let me see where that is. There's something at least. Yeah, here we go. This is a similar concept. You'll notice, again, I have kind of 2 sets of the same thing. So like this particular floor tile right here, it's undefined, there's nothing special about it. It animates for a certain number of frames, and then in this case it's 10 because it has to line up with the next thing on the list basically. But it goes from that to this, which is right here. This one goes for 10 frames. It goes to the next one, which is right here. This one, once again, lasts for 10 frames. It's the exact same animation, I just have 2 of them. And then it goes from that back to the beginning. And the reason I have it like that is because I wanted the electric field to last twice as long as the one, basically as the opening. So you have, I don't remember how long it actually lasts, but let's say you have 1 second of an opening, and then 1 second of this, and then 1 second of this, and then back to 1 second of opening. And it does that until either you hit him or the screen warps you off because you took too long or whatever happens. And I forgot to explain this part earlier, sorry, but another important thing with combo cycling is the number of frames do actually have to be the same on each step of it. So with like the moving floor tiles earlier, they all lasted for, they were all just 2 frames because there was no actual animation here. Here, because there is an animation going on, and I wanted it to last a certain amount of time, it's like with the electricity, there's only 2 frames it goes between, but because you also have the big dark laughing animation, which plays at a different speed from the electricity, I kind of had to have them sync up, and so it's sort of like a multiplier going into here. Again, this is just a particular instance. This isn't something you have to worry about on like every time you do this, but you need to figure out how many frames the most complicated part of your animation is going to be and have everything else match that. That's the reason there's 10 blank frames of nothing, because if I set it to be only 1, it wouldn't work. And when you place this in Zelda Classic, it'll show the animation for whatever you first place, but it's not going to show the cycling of the other stuff, so you really have to go in and test it to make sure it works. I kind of wish it showed in the game, but I can understand why it doesn't. And if this is ever of use to you, it's also worth noting that animations of things do actually start playing off screen even if you're not looking at them. So for instance, like let's say you want to have an event happen when you go into a room, like a rock falls or something, but it only plays when you go into the room. If you just have it as an animation on the screen, it's going to constantly be falling over and over again. But if you have it as a combo cycle, it's going to wait until you load the screen, and then it'll play out. And because it's a combo cycle, you could also get to the last frame of that animation and tell it, don't do a next one, and have it be done, and it only plays once. So there is a use to these, even if you're not changing properties. It can be used just for like one-time animations and stuff like that. So it's a cool thing to play with, but it's not needed for everything. It's a little bit more advanced, and again, hopefully I explained that decently.